everybody, and welcome to Bits of Board, where we're talking board games, miniatures, cards, and dice. My name's Michael, and today we are checking out a game by the name of The Estates. Now, this isn't going to be a review. I just want to show you what this game is like, because I believe there are two types of people out there in the board gaming world, and they are people who will like this game, and they are people who will not like this game. You'll love this game if you like backstabbing economic games with a bit of, I guess I'm trying to say, if you've played modern art, you'll like this game. If you've played Intrigue, you'll like this game. If you've played Sheriff of Nottingham and Lie Your Way to Victory, you're gonna love this game because this game is brutal. Now, just before we get into the gameplay side of things, I just wanted to give you a heads up on the theme here, because you play some multi-millionaire and you've made your millions through a lot of backhanded, underhanded deals. You're a bad guy. And you're contributing to the development of some block of land that the city council have said, develop here, please. But you're like, I'm going to break those rules. I'm going to develop wherever the hell I want because I want to be rich. And so you're going to be changing the rules, bending the rules, breaking the rules. You are going to be backstabbing every other player at the table, right? So you come out on top. Sound interesting? Check out the vid and find out more. I'll see you at the end. Setup for The Estates is a breeze. Basically, you're just making sure that the components are within easy reach of all players. So we've got our company certificates. We're going to chuck them nearby over here. Then we flip over any of our roof tiles, making sure the numbers are hidden. Give them a quick shuffle up, and then organize them at the top of the board like so. Next, we place our other components, our mayor, building permits, and cancel cube. Next, we dish out the bank account. Each player is going to get $12 million worth of checks. And finally, we set up the floor cubes. Now, the floor cubes are the meat and veg of the game, and they're sort of randomized in between sessions. So we've got this lovely estate bag here, and I've got all of these cubes in the bag, and basically we're just going to pull out 24 of these. We're going to place them in columns of 3, until we've got a total of 24. With all those placed, we take the bag and the remaining cubes within there, we pop them back in the box, because they're not being used at all this game. Once everything's out, we randomly determine the start player and get stuck in. In The Estates, players will act as investors, facilitating the development of new construction works within the cities. They're a little bit skeevy though, and even though the council had only provided approval for 2 rows of 4 buildings of development, they've gone ahead and, we're developing over 3 rows of 4. Now, the council, having gotten wind of this, will shut us down immediately on completion of the 2nd row, which means any player's investment in the 3rd and incomplete row will be null and void. Initially, the 3 rows of development have only 4 placement locations. However, if a player can obtain building permits, they can extend the building production or reduce it, forcing completion of a row much earlier than expected. Before they choose their item to auction off, players may choose to take any of their millions of dollars, just 1 per turn, and remove it from the game, securing 1 extra victory point for each million removed. During auctions, players will choose a component to auction off. In most cases, these floor cubes are going to be the way to go. But there's also roof tiles and other tokens which grant special abilities, including those building permits. When choosing their floor cubes, players have access to the outermost cubes in each of the 3 rows. So in this case, a player can choose between 6, 3, and 2, 1, 6, and 6 down here. Especially in the early game, where placement will guarantee a stock certificate of the coloured cube, players should ensure that there are at least a decent number of cubes available in that colour. That way, scoring will be easier. Higher numbers are best, but of course that does leave the cube open for additional levels to be placed, so you don't want to pay too much for it. Scouting out decent white dirt locations will ensure that those high valued cubes aren't stolen by other players. After a player chooses a coloured cube or another component to auction off, the auction begins with the player to the left of the auctioneer and continues around. Once the auction is complete, the player may then choose to pay the highest bidder equal to the amount bid to keep the component for themselves, or may hand over the component for the price declared. In this case, our opponent has bid $5 million to take control of the blue 6. However, I think that's a little bit too short for my liking. So I will then match their bid of $5 million and send it back over to them because I want to place the cube. A player having won the auction for one of the floor cubes will then be able to place the cube in one of the leftmost locations in any of the 3 rows. If this is the first cube placed of the colour, the player then obtains the related stock certificate, and that means this player will now score all blue-capped buildings that are eligible for scoring at the end of the game. If a player builds on one of the normal placement locations, they and their opponents may continue building on top of the cube as long as the value of the next cube is less than the placed cube. This 3 is not able to be placed on top. Whenever a player wishes, and as long as there is a valid placement location, the player may choose to auction off a randomly valued roof tile. These values are hidden from players during selection for the auction, but made available just before the first bid. Once won at auction, the rooftop can be placed on any cube that doesn't currently have a roof. This blocks off the location for any future placement locations, no matter what the number. If a player was to build in a white dirt location like here or here, players will be unable to place on top of the cube no matter what the value. Instead of auctioning level cubes or rooftop tiles, players may choose to auction off some of the other available components. Building permits will either lengthen or shorten the building availability in any row. So for example, this 2 here could be used to extend this all the way out 2 spaces past the river, or could instead be used to block it off completely. The value on the building permit dictates how many spaces this either extends or retracts, and these can be used even on locations that already have building permits. However, you can never use a building permit to retract further than locations already built. The cancel cube can be used to remove the effects of any one building permit. So in this case, the cancel cube and the 2 building permit would be removed from the game. The mayor is another auctionable good, but we'll have a chat about him later because he relates directly to endgame scoring. Now, when auctioning off floor cubes or rooftop tiles, these have to be placed immediately after the auction is won. But if one of the other special components is won, the player may choose to remove it from the game instead of enacting its effects on the board. The game ends as soon as any 2 of the 3 rows are fully completed. As you can see here, the bottom row has had all buildings roofed off, and while not all 4 buildings have been placed, a building permit has retracted the 4th and remaining space, and the middle row has had all 4 of its starting positions capped off. At the end of the game, each building awards points to the player who owns the certificate of the topmost cube. Any cube beneath the top cube is ignored for scoring purposes. The bottom row has been a complete success for the yellow player, gaining 6 points for the roof and 4 points for the number on his cube here. The green player will gain 2 points for the roof and 3 points for the number on his cube. Back over here, the yellow points gains another 10 points based on the values of his top cube and roof. The purple player, however, receives absolutely nothing. Even though his cube contributed to the building, it was not underneath the rooftop. Points are awarded for each of the capped buildings in the 2 completed rows at the end of the game. However, points do still have to be worked out for those on the incomplete row. Up the top here, grey, yellow, and 3 would receive negative points based on the value of their completed works or incomplete works. In the case that red also had a roof, they would then deduct the roof points as well. Now, placement of the mayor can award huge benefits, as he will double the value of the points scored in his row. However, if he's placed in the incomplete row, he still awards double the points, but this is double the negative values. So in this case, grey would receive negative 10 points, yellow negative 6, and red negative 8. There you go, guys and gals. I reckon 2 minutes into that explanation, you would know if this game is for you or not. I love it because I've got the perfect gaming group for this particular game. You mentioned backstabbing, auctions, economic management, or stocks. Well, it's on the table, it's on the wish list, it's going to be played because we are vicious and mean, and that's how we can be sometimes, and that's all right. But if you're playing with a group of people where you want to be friends for the next week and beyond, then yeah, maybe not. Err on the side of caution here, okay? Because no good things come from the estates. No good things come from Dragon's Gold, from modern art, from intrigue. These are the things that will end friendships, and we love them. Alright guys and gals, if you've enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and do all the things that you guys can do to help me out building this channel up. But other than that though, we are done. Thanks very much for watching, guys and gals. As always, my name is Michael, this is Bits Aboard. We'll catch you next time.